Hello and welcome to your program, The International Sphere. And today, here on the set, we are joined by the South Africa High Commissioner to Tanzania, Her Excellency Ms. Nolutando Mayende Malepe, who with me will discuss the good, excellent diplomatic relations between the two countries. From me, your host, Agnes Tunik, I welcome you here on the set. My guests, please welcome here on the set. Good to see you and to meet you at the same time. And I'm privileged to be invited here at your residence here at Oysterbay.
Thank you very much for inviting me and for conducting this interview with me on behalf of the South African High Commission in Tanzania.
And it's good that we'll be discussing the good relations between the two countries that we're talking about, South Africa and Tanzania. Madam High Commissioner, my first question, how easy is it to work here in Tanzania due to the good relations that we share between the two countries?
Thank you very much for inviting me. It's an honor to be on your broadcasting corporation. The relations between Tanzania and South Africa are excellent, and they started during the time of our struggle against apartheid. Already Tanzania had got her freedom, and we were still struggling until 1994 to get our freedom as South Africa. And under the leadership of former president, the first post-independent presidents of Tanzania, Julius Nyerere, our comrades and our people came to Tanzania to seek support to running away from an oppressive regime in the country of their birth. They were welcomed here. Tanzania opened her borders. People opened their homes and their hearts to accommodate our people during a very difficult times in the history of South Africa. So the political party, the ruling party, CCM, supported the African National Congress as well as the Pan-Africanist Congress, who had comrades here who were being trained, and others were trained and sent to other countries like Russia, for instance, for further military training and so on. So we appreciate that support from the Tanzanian leadership and the Tanzanian people, which now is also translating to today's relationships that we have, which were then restarted also when South Africa got her independence or freedom in 1994. Immediately after the new government came in, diplomatic relations were restarted between the two countries. And since then, 30 years down the line, we have been together as the two countries, as former liberation movements. And I must say that Tanzania was also home to other liberation movements from the North and Southern African regions. So we really are appreciative, and we always say thank you, Tanzania. Thank you, beautiful people of Tanzania, for having such big hearts to accommodate us. So we'll forever be grateful for that. Yeah.
Thank you very much for that very good insight. Talking about you being the head of mission here in Tanzania, representing the government of South Africa to our country, what are your highlights in terms of areas of cooperation that you think you have been able to be able to mold and implement?
Indeed, you have pointed out, as I've pointed out, that our formal diplomatic relations started in 1990, immediately after 1994. And since then, we have been working hard, both of us, to ensure that we maintain, we also form the official relations through the official diplomatic channels that we have had. For instance, in 2011, President Kikwete, former President Kikwete of Tanzania, visited South Africa, yes, on a state visit, which was a very important and a far-reaching visit, where it was agreed that we needed to form the binational relations moving forward. That was done, and I think also during the visit, there was an agreement that was signed between the two presidents on the formation of the PNC, as I have indicated. So initially there was the Presidential Economic Commission, which was in place before then. Now it was a formal binational commission, which we are even now currently implementing. So after the state visit of President Kikwete, President Jacob Zuma in 2017 visited Tanzania, and that elevated our relations, and we recommitted to working together to ensure that development, socio-economic development, economic development, and so on, takes place in both our countries. So we are grateful for our leaders, because last year, March, President Samia Suluhu Hassan visited South Africa. And it was also a very big visit and a very big statement by Tanzania that we must continue to work together. There were agreements that were signed, and we continue to work together with the Tanzanian government to ensure that what was agreed to at that time is implemented for the good of both our peoples. So indeed, our relations remain strong and remain focused and are respectful of one another. And when President Samia Suluhu Hassan was in South Africa, when she spoke, she even referred to the fact that Tanzania is a big country with plenty of land. And she challenged South Africa to say, come, with your agricultural expertise. Yeah, so we appreciate that friendship between our two countries.
Tanzania is the right place to invest due to favorable investment environment, even reliable markets because of its surroundings by neighboring countries, countries like Kenya, Zambia, Congo, among others. How has South Africa been able to use this opportunity effectively to continue invest in Tanzania? Because we understand that South Africa has already invested massively here in numbers, yes.
Tanzania has created a favorable environment for business and for investors to come from all over the world to come and invest in the country. And we appreciate that as South Africa. And we have about 250 companies operating in Tanzania in different sectors, of course, of the economy. And they are, working well in the environment that has been created. And whenever there are challenges, we are able also to knock on the door of the leaders, and interventions are made accordingly. And as we speak, subject to more research and so on, South Africa has invested about $600 million US dollars to Tanzania, which is ranked amongst the 10 top investors in Tanzania, ranking also with the best and the biggest economy. You name your USA, your UK, Netherlands, China, India, even Kenya for that matter. So we still want to go back, to be amongst the top 5, because we are an African country. We have quite a big economy on the African continent, working together, of course, with other economies within the continent. So we indeed, there have been, good and progressive reforms initiated by the President of Tanzania. We appreciate that because they encourage, investors to come to the country. We are also engaging with South African companies right across the sectors, in terms of the energy. There's also a big interest for mining. Mining companies from South Africa have an increased interest in coming to invest in Tanzania, which is a very good sign, of working together. So there are other, sectors, and I know that in terms of your pharmaceutical, greenfield investments, edible oil, you have sunflower
Yes.
oil, and I saw one time when I was driving towards Dodoma, we saw big farms of
Yes.
sunflower
Yes.
oils, and that is also a very good space for investment for South African businesses and so on. And we also need to learn what to do, when you farm sunflower oil. You also
what it takes.
you also have cashew nuts. If you go to South Africa, for instance, you want to buy cashew nuts, a packet like this,
Very expensive. Huh?
very, very expensive because we don't have it. But it is rich. It is one of your rich resources in the country. It's a space also where people are interested to come in and invest in. Of course, in terms of agriculture, processes, energy, you name it. Yeah. And I've also discovered that you have very good cotton. I thought Egypt, Benin, on the African continent, had very good cotton, and I think Tanzania has also. Yeah. So indeed, in terms of renewable energy, cotton, textile, and all of those things, and also the agricultural space, as President Samia indicated during her visit to South Africa. So these are the areas. The companies are here working together with Tanzanian companies, and is encouraging to see the progress that is being made thus far.
I've listened very carefully with your explanation here, and which of course I do agree, Madam High Commissioner, that South Africa is doing very well in Tanzania. Now, looking on the other hand, Tanzania in South Africa, how has this Tanzanian business reached the South African market? And on top of that, how do you use also the Dar es Salaam International Trade Fair, charting ways in promoting business for both countries?
Indeed, we are concerned that the trade balance favors South Africa more than Tanzania. And it's something that we need to work at. In fact, it may be due to the difference in sizes of the economies, the two so we would like to see the trade balance between our two countries being more equitable. And part of our strategy is to encourage more South African companies to invest in Tanzania. And also Tanzanian companies are encouraged to go and invest in South Africa as well. So we would like to contribute by ensuring that our companies from South Africa come to Tanzania to invest right across the sectors of the Tanzanian economy, so that we try and balance, the equation, so to speak. There are many opportunities that are there. And also, just to encourage Tanzanian companies, also, they are welcome to go to South Africa. Our president is championing investment conferences that bring to the table most of the investors of the world, particularly from the African continent as well. So we would like to see more Tanzanian companies operating in South Africa as well. And I think also, if I may mention, there's a company that launched yesterday, which is called BFG Africa.
From South Africa to Tanzania?
Yes. It was launched yesterday. We are happy about it because they are involved in fiberglass, and they are working for the modern trail, buildings, and so forth and so forth. So we encourage people to go and have a look at it and, engage with the products that are there. It is encouraging. And I would also like to use this platform that you have so graciously given me to inform Tanzania that the South African Airways is coming back to Tanzania. Remember that a few years ago, SAA withdrew from many countries, and it also withdrew from the skies of Tanzania due to the internal issues at that time. So now they are ready to reintroduce the airline back to the skies, and they will be coming starting in November. We will confirm the exact date of that route, and I'm very excited because people have been, asking questions. When are we getting SAA back? So I'm raising this so that we are really working hard to ensure that South African companies come and do business in partnership, of course, with the Tanzanian business people here in the country.
Madam High Commissioner, for a person of my age, 1994 seems just like yesterday, but it's now 30 years. This is 2024 that South Africa has celebrated 30 years of its independence since the apartheid regime. You as a South African, and of course an African and the High Commissioner, tell us, what does this mean to you and people from South Africa in enjoying the country as full citizens?
Indeed, we have 2024 is a special year for our country because we are celebrating 30 years of our freedom and democracy. And we are looking back on the journey that we have traveled thus far in the last 30 years. If you look back before 1994, we don't even want to think about what our people went through, And there are many people who sacrificed their lives for us to be where we are today. I wanted to first mention that we lost one of our cadres, a former minister of finance, of public enterprises, of cooperative governance, and so on, Minister Pravin Gordhan. And he's being laid to rest today as we speak. And we want to say, may his soul rest in peace. We appreciate what he gave for our country during the struggle. And we've been listening to I remember him also in KZN Durban, during those times of struggles with comrades, even going underground, to get information from those in exile, getting, direction from Lusaka, where the African National Congress then was located. So we really appreciate the contribution that people like him made for our struggle, and we salute him as he's being laid to rest today. So indeed, 30 years is a reflection of the journey that South Africa has traveled up to thus far. And we appreciate the support that we have received as we were transforming the country to a free and democratic country. And it was not fair at all. It was not easy. It was very difficult to change from an old system and come with new policies, new laws, new institutions, new principles, and also getting people who previously did not agree with one another to agree, like our former president, Nelson Mandela, our founding father of our democracy, brought everybody to the table and to look at what was possible then. And the outcome is the democracy that we are enjoying today. So we are very, very happy. South Africa then became a member of the international community. Previously, it was not, because the whole world stood against those who oppress us, except for a few who stood with them. But we are here to say thank you, Tanzania, again for supporting us and for working with us also through the journey that we've traveled. Last year, when we celebrated Mandela Day, on the 18th of July, we hosted a Mandela lecture, and it was delivered by former President Kikwete. And his reflection was, of course, 10 years after Nelson Mandela passed away in 2013. Yes. How does South Africa look like? How do our relations look like? How does the continent look like? And one of the things he mentioned was that Nelson Mandela stood for peace. He stood for unity. He was larger than life, so to speak. And what is it that all of us have done in his memory to ensure that Africa develops, to ensure that Africa, is on par with other continents of the world. So that was, for me, a very profound analysis of the journey that all of us have traveled. Mm-hmm. And now, as we celebrate 30 years, one thinks about that lecture as well. And thank you to former President Kikwete for, having agreed, to deliver that lecture in the presence also of young people, the future generation, who need to know who they are and where they come from. Yes. Because soon our generation, will be handing over the baton to the younger generation. Mm-hmm. So we are very happy that also our foreign policy remains solid. We are friends to most countries in the world, but the African agenda takes center stage in terms of our foreign policy. So again, it is also to emphasize, the South-to-South cooperation, the unity of Africa, the continent taking its rightful place in terms of the international and global developments, so that developing countries as well can be at a level where they can have a voice as well and be able to take decisions that will take the continent forward.
Madam High Commissioner, you understand here in Tanzania, we've made history that now we do have a president, a female president, Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan. How do you feel about that? You also being a woman and of course the High Commissioner of South Africa to Tanzania.
Everybody is admiring her leadership and the way that she has and other people that she's working with united Tanzania. So we are watching and we are being inspired by the leadership of President Samia Suluhu Hassan. I am very privileged to be serving in Tanzania at this period, and as it is led by her exemplary leadership. And she has killed the notion of the fact that women cannot occupy such positions. And she is really well respected. And I can tell you now that there are other, high profile people who would like to have an audience with her. And that shows you that she has brought something to the body politics of Tanzania and the economic development of the country, but also on the continent and on the international stage. So as a woman activist myself, I've been also a former minister before. I've served also in other countries as an ambassador, like Egypt, Benin, and Togo. Now I'm here in Tanzania and watching an amazing woman leading a country as important as Tanzania.
Madam High Commissioner, on that note, I thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you.
Asante sana.
Asante sana.
Well, dear viewers, we've come to the end of our program, The International Sphere. Just remember, today I was joined by Her Excellency Nolutando Mayende Malepe, who is the South Africa High Commissioner to Tanzania. From me, your host, Agnes Tuniga, thank you very much for being with us. Goodbye.